Intel Extreme Masters Rio is brought to you in part by Intel, Acer Predator, DHL, US Air Force, 1xBet, and Monster Energy.
Absolutely phenomenal.
And Ace is the champion of the Intel Extreme Masters World Finals.
Storm's still not quite done. MC is going to take this fight, though. 3 seconds left.
Last 2 rounds of action's got to start it well for ESC.
And this is a massive move for Zez, but he's not content with just the Nexus kill. He wants to win.
And it's all done. And Strollick's winning.
Unbelievable Rogue with a 4-0 victory over Classic.
And they did it again in the grand finals. It's Goldie!
Give it up for your Intel Extreme Masters World Champion!
Sunshine and Counter-Strike, two things that Rio is famous for. Welcome everybody to the IEM Rio B stream. My name is Lucy. Joining me on the cast this morning will be Brandon B-Dog. How are you doing?
Yeah, very excited to be here, of course, Lucy. And wow, what a tournament. Coming off the back of the RMR, we have nearly all of the Legend Stage teams in attendance here for IEM Rio. It gives us a small little sample size of what potentially is to come in Paris.
And also one of the very last events in CSGO history, right? We're getting to the tail end of this game, the closing remarks of this chapter, and an opportunity for these teams to go out with a massive bang. So there's a lot on the line here for everyone at Rio.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess we could take a look at the bracket to see how things are shaping up, right? We've got 2 groups. Of course, over in Group A, it's Heroic versus 9 to kick things off. Big versus Mouse in their opener. Imperial NIP and the Mongols taking on Na'Vi.
That's the game we'll be jumping into this morning. But yeah, it's all best of ones to kick things off. A lot of exciting games here in Group A, also in Group B. Plenty of best of ones over there that we can take a look at. FaZe coming off the back of just qualifying for the major. They'll be coming here to verse 9Z. Furia versus Fnatic. Furia on the home soil in Rio. Vitality versus OG, and MIBR, another Brazilian team taking on Cloud9. So there's actually a lot of local representation here, which I think is very exciting.
Yeah, it is, especially kind of bolstered by Imperial coming in as a last-minute replacement. Here's the schedule for today on the B stream. As mentioned, the Mongols taking on Na'Vi in our first best of one, followed up by some absolute bangers of matchups, right? Heroic versus 9, MIBR versus Cloud9, and then to round things off in the best of one stage, FaZe Clan taking on 9Z.
Yeah, a lot of really exciting matches here. We'll have the best of threes later on today as well. There is yet to be decided because obviously they rely on the matches that have played before them, but I'm sure there'll be very exciting matchups. But a lot of big names taking to the stage here this morning. I'm particularly excited, Brandon. I don't know about you, but that Heroic versus 9 game really stands out to me amongst this list in terms of how competitive it sets to be. We talk about best of ones and kind of the upset potential there. I think the RMRs are a fantastic example of seeing this in action. I mean, you looking at these games here, are you seeing many upsets potentially unfolding?
I think the biggest upset potential will be that Heroic versus 9 game. I think if you just take a look, I mean, we've got some kind of recency bias, right, with that RMR. Will teams be caught off guard by the underdogs? Will they provide a new flavor of Counter-Strike? Will they try something a little bit different, whether it's in the map pool, whether it's in the strategies, to try and offset? Because you've only got potentially 30 rounds of Counter-Strike to play. There is a lot of room for these tier 2 teams to really catch off the top guns.
Yeah, we talk about kind of the format. Obviously, all the opening games are those best of ones where, you know, if you can get off to a good start, you can set yourself up for success later because everything after that will be the best of threes. In terms of the qualification process towards the playoffs, there'll be 3 teams going through from each group. So in Group A, that'll be 3, and in Group B, that'll be 3. The 2 teams that go all the way through the upper bracket, so they win their opening best of 1, they win their best of 3, and then they make it through to that final. They all qualify, and then the single team from that loser lower bracket will have a chance to get through. So double elimination means that losing your opening best of 1 isn't the end of the world, but once you get into those best of 3s, that's when it gets crazy.
Yeah, and I feel like for each one of these teams, they'd just be hoping that they can just get the best of 1 out the way early. It gives them the most amount of opportunities to try and qualify in for the playoffs. I think if we take a look at storylines, we can have a think about some of the teams coming into this just fresh off the RMR. Big question marks for me for Big and Cloud9. Obviously missed out in the last chance qualifier to make the last ever Counter-Strike Global Offensive Major. Will that kind of light a fire under their bellies? Will they come out swinging here in these openers, or will the emotion and just kind of the gravitas just really get to them?
Well, there's storylines that we'll be touching on throughout this event. But for now, we're going to take a very short break. When we come back, we'll be jumping into that opening matchup, Mongols versus Na'Vi.
Dallas, we're back. Counter-Strike is in our DNA. It always has been, and it always will be. And now we are once more returning to where it all began.
Melbourne, Australia. Home of the best Palmers, the Flat White, iconic trams, the Yarra River, and CSGO. 2, 3, ESL Challenger Melbourne. Book your tickets now.
And welcome back. We're getting ready to jump into our first matchup of I Am Rio's B stream. It's going to be the Mongols taking on Na'Vi, one of the best teams in the world, taking on the plucky underdogs from Mongolia.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very interesting kind of matchup when you look at it on the face of it, because you've got the Mongols who have made roster changes recently, but that didn't stop them qualifying for the major. They only lost one series in that entire run. That was the Greyhound, but it still went the distance. It still went all 3 maps. And I feel like the storylines coming in for that Mongol side is, well, how are they going to adjust? You lose out on score. You kind of then go through this kind of transition period. Are you going to rotate the players within your roster to accommodate roles, make Azteca feel a little bit more comfortable? Or instead, are you just going to kind of slot him in? And from just the eye test over on the kind of the RMRs, it was a case of Score's roles were just being completely adopted by Azteca. And as a result, it was kind of smooth sailing really for the Mongol side. And now we look forward ahead to how they can compete against, unfortunately for them, it's a really rough opener because it's one of the best teams in the world, but at least it's a good eye test for them.
Yeah, I think in terms of the best of one openers, this is probably the one that has, I guess, the biggest disparity in terms of, it feels like the one that's most likely going to be favored to one team. Obviously, Na'Vi coming in, they've just qualified for Paris with that 3-0 run. They're legends at the last CSGO major. They're a team that has had pretty solid finishes at events this year. That sort of 3rd, 4th finish at EPL, same result at Katowice as well. So they've kind of been on this pretty good upward trajectory after some pretty disappointing results towards the end of last year. I think there's been a bit of conversations. Simple's been not at his star level performance, but I think the exciting part about Na'Vi has been looking at the other pieces, right? We've seen some, particularly during the RMRs, some really good performances from NPL, a player that when he first came into the roster seemed to be struggling to kind of find the form that he'd shown in the academy roster, but has really started to come into his own in this last event. So I think for me, that's what I'm looking to for Na'Vi here at Rio. Is NPL going to continue being able to put up those numbers, or was that kind of a once in a, one event kind of highlight?
Yeah, I think it's kind of his trajectory is very similar to when Bit was first incorporated into the roster, right? It was a slow start, but then once he kind of found his footing, once he kind of established which roles he was supposed to really play and identify himself with in this Na'Vi lineup, he's been a very dependable pair of hands. The fact that he goes into that phase best of 3, it's the qualification for the major, it's to go flawless as well, and you drop a 1.35 rating. That speaks volumes to how high NPL's skill ceiling really is. And you just kind of take a look at Na'Vi in general, and the fact that you're right, you mentioned that Simple hasn't been reaching his star potential, and yet he's still on a 1.2 rating. The guy is absurd.
Yeah, I think he's always going to be that sort of consistent piece, but I guess he's not putting up those sort of Zyru, Shiro kind of numbers that, we expect from him. But it hasn't been a big deal because, it's been the riflers around him that have been really solid. Bit maybe not at the top, but I've been really impressed with Electronics' return to form as well, right? It feels like he's calling really well. We just had that interview where Blade was saying that he feels that Electronic is a better IGL than Boomage was. And that was the roster that won the Stockholm Major. So that's a big claim to be making, and it puts a lot of confidence in the Na'Vi stocks coming into this. On the other side, the Mongols, if you're not familiar with this name, because this name hasn't been what this team has been under for most of their time in the last couple of years. They were the IHC roster, which we have seen at quite a few events before. Last year, in fact, at Rio, they eliminated Double O Nation, which was a pretty big win for them. Obviously not great for the Brazilian fans, but I'm sure coming into Rio, that's long in the rearview mirror. But this year, it's been a little bit up and down for them. Their international events haven't quite been there. They beat Cloud9 2-0 during the group stage at Katowice, but that's kind of their only success throughout all of their international events. At EPL, they only picked up one map in a best of 3 before they were eliminated. So on the international stage, not been the best for them, but they did just qualify for Paris. So, there's a little bit of inertia that comes from that.
Yeah, for sure. And they can definitely use this event as experience building, especially just incorporating the new player into their roster. I think what's exciting for the Mongols is just their mentality and the way they kind of conduct themselves outside of the server. Saw a lot of pro league interviews with Techno, with Bartak, and Bartak especially was just really this cool, calm, and collective presence, especially because he's got very limited experience just kind of on the international stage. It's a good mentality and it kind of sets up the Mongols for success, maybe not just in this event in isolation, but just for the future, because if they can keep building on the success and just kind of the fundamentals they've laid down for themselves, then there is potential we can still see them being consistent threats at these events. With that being said, though, heading into this best of one, it's always going to be really tricky. I guess we can take a look at the veto. We can pull that one up. I feel like this one's always going to kind of head to Inferno. I don't know about you, Lucy.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to let Inferno through if you're Na'Vi against Mongols, right? Because it is their best map. It's a map that they absolutely will always pick into. So if you are playing a best of one against this team, I feel like you avoid it. It might seem a bit silly because Inferno is such a good best of one map, but I'd be probably leaning towards something like an Ancient. And yeah, they're exactly there. It is. The ban comes through from Na'Vi. I like it. Don't face Mongols on Inferno, and you definitely make it a lot easier for you.
Yeah, I mean, the Mongols banned out Ancient immediately. They're actually going to get rid of Vertigo now. So we've got a couple of cool maps still left in the pool. We've got Overpass that we've seen. The Mongols look pretty good on the CT side on. It's always been the T side of things where question marks just kind of come in. So they actually just removed that straight away. So now we've got a potential for a nuke or a Mirage.
Yeah, I think both of those make sense for both these teams. I like the decision to push it towards Mirage if you're Na'Vi. Nuke, it is a map that obviously Na'Vi are very, very good at, but it can be a little tricky in a best of one just because of the disparity between CT and T sides. So Mirage, a nice equal playing field, a map that all these players can really step up on. And when you've got people that can hit shots like Na'Vi can, I feel like Mirage, it doesn't matter that it's a bit more of a puggy style map. You should just outclass them in the server.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a safer bet, and I agree with you about the banning of Inferno, just because the Mongols, whenever they can, they will always pick that in a best of three scenario. So you've kind of got a good middle ground here. You've got kind of an equal distribution of rounds being won on the T and the CT side. Na'Vi, they've got the better individuals, and they've also got the better framework. I think what's really interesting as well is just seeing how the Mongols will react and their response times to situations occurring in the server. We see with the teams kind of outside of Europe that their reactions in the mid rounds, their timing of like how to piece rounds together and reach a final destination of a bomb site is sometimes a little bit slower. And when you're going up against a team like Na'Vi, you can't afford to kind of be hesitant. You need to all pick a direction and just stick with it.
Yeah, and I guess a point for Na'Vi and for a few teams coming into this in terms of the RMRs, their RMR run was the week before, right? So they have an entire week to kind of prep for Rio specifically, whereas some of the teams coming in won't have had that time. I mean, I'm talking about Cloud9, FaZe, those sort of teams aren't going to have that same level of prep. So I feel like Na'Vi comes in with that little extra bit of reassurance in terms of have been ready for this matchup the whole time. They've been ready for this whole bracket. They'll kind of have an idea of how it's going to play out. I think in terms of the Mongols, like the player that I'm really excited to see here and a part of why this roster is so excited is Techno, this really young, exciting player. I mean, he's just 17. I feel like we've been talking about him for a while now, but he's still a really young player and has a lot of potential. And I think that's what gets you really excited about this Mongols roster. Compared to like some of the other big Asian teams we've had in the past, like say Tyloo, where it's been a team that's all veterans that have been around for a long time, it feels like you kind of know where the ceiling is there, where for Mongols with like the young players in the mix, I feel like that adds a bit of spice as you don't really know how far they can go.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think to kind of build on that, but also contrast it a little bit, is I feel like Annihilation's going to have a really tough AWP head-to-head, obviously going up against people. Doesn't feel the best. However, if you do start winning those 1v1s, so you get a couple of kills here or there, that's going to inspire a lot of confidence and belief into this Mongols side. And we kind of saw in the opening stages of tournaments, not just in the RMR, but just in general for Na'Vi, they kind of get off to this slow start. So maybe a best of one is definitely a perfect opportunity for the Mongols to try and surprise.
Yeah, well, back at the RMR, and we did see Na'Vi get pushed by Into the Breach, right? That went to double overtime in that opening best of one. So there's certainly the possibility to be able to upset here in a best of one, but the backs are against the wall, and we are straight into the action here on the opening game of the B stream. Mongols versus Na'Vi. Mongols starting on the T side, and they're getting ready for a bit of a palace pop.
Yeah, this is fast. Smoke's already down. Flashbang's about to rain on in. Simple has got dual Berettas and Bits taking first contact, but Techno finds the opener. MPL stands in through the smoke, and Electronic now wrapping back towards Triple. Trades are so back and forth here in the 3 versus 3, but Electronic is trying to stand strong. The bomb site not yet breached by the Mongols, and the bomb is just wide out in the open.
Yes, the biggest issue here, it is the 2 versus 2, but how do you recover this bomb? It is right towards default. The answer has been send Blitz around. Annihilation gives it a bit of a look in and is going to give it a fight here, but gets brought down low still. But Annihilation's pure role here is to distract things. You can see Na'Vi, they are expecting something now because the time has just got on so long without the second player being revealed. Blitz finally gets noted. A nice gush though. MPL is brought down low. And Blitz feels like he has to force it through, jumps on through, and MPL wins out that duel. Annihilation now in the 1 versus 2, tries to get the reload off. And that's when Perfecto comes on through, and Na'Vi get the pistol.
Yeah, that's really well played by Na'Vi in the 2 versus 2. MPL, as soon as he gets gushed, he just drops the smoke, and the way he moves to the left-hand side of stairs allows a crossfire to now be established with Perfecto in towards Triple, just in case the Mongols player starts running out of A and just tries to overwhelm at the same time. Instead, it's 1 versus 1 gunfight's given up. Na'Vi, they will lock in the pistol.
No bomb plant means nothing coming for Mongols into this one. Perfecto gets that opening duel, and Simple, well, he's looking for a bit of a fight with the MP9, try and farm up some cash early, and he's gonna try and force the issue towards top mids. What's out? Quite a few players, and he is solo here, and they're all tucking. They want to force him out into the open so they can swing, but can't pull a fast one on Simple. He's having no issues here, cleaning up, goes down eventually, and in fact, Annihilation's found a second kill. That's already a lot of damage done with just the Glock. That's all he's going to be able to do.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you've dropped Simple's MP9 that's found a bunch of kills. He can just invest a lot of money. He can even bring out the AWP if he wants to. And it was just the FAMAS that was actually picked up at the end. So the SMGs will just be reinvested anyway for Na'Vi. Mongols, at the cost of that eco round, are now able to invest everything. Light on the utility load, however, you still got smokes coming in, and I'm really excited to see this mid portion of the map be adopted because it is such a prevalent sort of choke point. You can kind of pincer in your executes. Simple hasn't even been required because Electronic does find Annihilation. A good trade out, and Blitz has been legged.
Yeah, it was really fast from Mongols in towards mid, trying to force the fight, and now they pincer onto the A side. Techno 4K gets that kill. Simple had a chance for a shot there, but has to fall on back, and he's actually decided to rotate towards B. Perfecto catches Hastiker as he tries to push jungle. Now it's into that 3 versus 3, the bomb on down, and Na'Vi are fast into it. Perfecto leading the charge as he comes up onto the site. Utility goes on over, flushing out Firebox, but nobody is tucked in there at the moment. The issue here is Blitz is so disconnected from his team, and it's not planted for him. Techno on the side has to step up, and he goes down after 1. Blitz's position known, and that means that bomb can just be stuck. There's just no way for him to clutch this one out. The time is not there. The bomb is defused, and he goes down to Simple's law.
It's interesting just watching the start of these rounds and then comparing and contrasting to how they end. The Mongols are more than happy to go for this scrappy style of Counter-Strike. They're more than willing to take these fights out towards middle. And Electronic was giving them that opportunity. And from there, Na'Vi, they just kind of settle back a little bit and they think, okay, actually, let's kind of go back into our fundamentals. Let's group up. Let's all swing from the same angle, ensure our trade spacing is really prevalent. And from there, the retake, it's just a one-sided story.
Very fast in the Mongols. And look at this round. They have no utility. A single smoke is remaining in the first 20 seconds. They are really looking for a bit of a fight here, and it might come in with this window presence. Annihilation boosts it up, but you can see Perfecto's holding that. He should have spotted when he crossed the light there because it gives that bit of indication. Yeah, support comes on over, but Perfecto doesn't need it. That kill known by the shadow crossing the light. And so the opening kill for Na'Vi. And Mongols have a single smoke left with a lot of time on the clock, and they are just continuing to fight, looking for any of these duels that can be offered up. Perfecto is pinned on through, low HP, so he does get taken down. Simple can't get involved at the moment. So somehow Mongols have forced their way back into this, trying to take fight onto Bit. Almost goes down, but he's able to find that kill. The bomb still gets planted.
Yeah, but look at MPL. already on this flank, although Bartak has heard him. Still though, Triple completely removed. It just leaves Bartak all alone. And whilst he's aware MPL is there, that's his position completely given up. Trapped in the corner, needs to fight his way out of it. Time is on his side, but Bit will just remove him with the clinical headshot. Another example where Mongols get a lot of space out towards Palace. They're able to overwhelm the bomb site. And I really like the presence of mind to fight in towards jungle, take the space beyond the bomb site and force Na'Vi to try and retake back in. But they do overlook MPL at the ramp, and he's the hidden element that allow Na'Vi a smooth way to retake.
I feel like this game is just non-stop action.
Yeah.
Like, it's just brawling everywhere. Very slow rounds here from the Mongols, and I doubt this one will be slow either. That bomb plant, again, enabling the investment. They have full loss bonus, so they're just going to keep on forcing the issue until eventually they find some sort of break in the armor. Maybe a little bit of a slower approach. Simple jumps on up into short with the AWP. To be in a good position to deal with this mid presence. Electronic doesn't spot anything, though.
Yeah, now we just get the rehearsed grenades being exchanged in towards middle. And a slower pace this time from the Mongols. They're sitting back, they're waiting to see if Na'Vi's going to overextend, but Na'Vi are just more than happy just to kind of wait. You can lead with Simple's AWP, and off the back of the nade, Electronics now pushing. Wanted to try and take space out in towards middle, has got reinforcements in towards window, and his position not expected by Annihilation, and he can just fall back.
Yeah, it's such a nice setup from Na'Vi here. They're fully dealing with the mid presence. They had 3 players kind of committed to taking the presence here. They get 1 kill, and that's enough. They obviously don't know the damage they've done to Hastika. That HE over the top, and then a bit of spam damage. Blitz has managed to get into Connector in front of that smoke, and Bartak through Palace spots out 1, but not able to find that timing. But that gives Blitz the opportunity to capitalize while they're distracted on Palace. Bit swings on through, Bartak not able to get the trade, so Na'Vi always good at finding the response here. Electronic holding for that swing as well. Hastika is so low, and he is separated from his teammate. Dropped by Simple, Techno needs a 4K to do anything in this round, and they know exactly where he is. Tries to force the fight with MPL, and that is to his demise.
Yeah, again, it's the understanding of the game from Na'Vi and the reactions they need to employ when things go a little bit against the grain. We saw a really nice kill coming in from jungle for the Mongols. The fact that Bartak takes first contact after this initial control by Na'Vi in towards top middle, but Bit takes the kill, falls back. Then the next advantage is Electronic on the head glitch angle. Then Bit can always swing in because he's tucked in towards the corner. It just looks like a flow chart. And Na'Vi, they're just ticking things off as they go.
All right, first time out, and it comes after 5 very chaotic rounds. This one may be a chance to be a little bit more chill. We've got a hero AK for Blitz. Everyone else yet to invest, and I suspect won't be bringing too much into it. Maybe a couple of pistols, some util. Maybe we'll see a bit of a B hit, potentially. Something, a bit of a change up. Feels like the crazy pace they're putting in mid and A isn't working out for them. They are indeed going to go back towards mid. All grouped up as 5, in fact. So waiting to see if any aggression comes. Not going to be the case yet for Na'Vi.
Yeah, Na'Vi will have a very good idea that the money is not in the best state of affairs for the Mongols. It looks like they're just going to try and burst out a connector here. All group up in the smoke as it fades. And right now, Simple, back turn, head spotted. Techno will take advantage of it. That's potentially a naught, but Electronic rises to the occasion with a multi-kill. And now Na'Vi can try and step in, but Bartak, that's such a surgical shot on towards short. MPL tries to stand where his former teammate once stood. You got to be careful under Palace if you are the Mongols, because Bit hasn't revealed himself.
Yeah, they're going to be going up short, though, and that's where MPL is. A little bit of damage done onto him, and he falls on back. They just have no idea of where these players are. He's looking in the wrong direction as they come on through, but he's just slipped on through. Bartek not able to spot him as MPL escapes, and so Mongols will find this bomb site clear, but still will put it into the 2 versus 2. So it's not the most comfortable position. Na'Vi at the moment just waiting to see what Mongols play is. When the bomb comes down, that's going to be their indication of what's up, and MPL immediately swivels around, starts to come through. Makes his presence known, but Really, it's all eyes on Bit. Is he going to join him? Looks like he is.
A couple of nades as well to help facilitate the retake. Mongols in a very deep crossfire between Van, Blitz. A lot of responsibility on his shoulders as they go to jump out the window, but Bit hits the shot anyway. Low HP, but it doesn't matter. Man advantage, but Bartak just tucked in towards the Van will finally finish off Bit. MPL knows exactly where he is, but elevated Bartak wins out the clutch. Fantastic response, and Mongols finally post a round on the board.
Yes, beautifully played by Mongols, particularly that final clutch there, getting onto the elevator position, knowing you're about to be swung on. Try and make that as difficult as possible in the duel. We get to see that one back. Precise shots, gets up on high. You can see MPL not ready for that shot. And that came off the back of just the hero AK, right? They forced the issue, managed to get all that presence in towards Connector, picked up some guns, caused chaos, and Na'Vi struggled to respond. And because this has been such a brawl, their bite isn't actually that great into this round. Simple hits another leg shot. Electronic is there to finish the job. The opening does go the way of Na'Vi. And Mongols, at the moment, they're actually quite spread. It's not the group up we've seen from them in most of these rounds. We're relying on getting that presence short early, but when that fell, they've just spread out, seeing if they can find anything in response.
What's interesting is this is the first round that Mongols have really led their contact with utility. And as a result, Na'Vi have kind of bitten down on it. They've deployed so much from their tool belts. Look at what's left. It's one smoke, a couple of flashes, and a nade. And there's plenty available for Mongols when they want to go for this execute. Slow reset in towards mid. That's the space and that's the respect that Na'Vi have so often been given this T side. The smoke up towards top connector and the bombs positioning. It's still a long way off.
A really nice setup from Na'Vi though, right? When you're in a 5v4, going a 2-2 setup, and then you've got Simple playing very passive, so he can quickly rotate. Perfecto is holding this off angle, and that should be good for one. Annihilation walks straight on through, but the trade is there immediately. Keep an eye on LPL in the apartments. MPL's in a great spot, but Techno 4K able to swing. Gets that one back. Simple makes his way over, and he has to fall on back as the nade comes on through. Small gap that he's holding, flashed on by. They're able to get the bomb on over. With Bit and Simple low, this is actually a tricky retake.
It's a consideration whether to go for it or not, but it looks like they will give it a look in. Bit trying to take the first point of contact, has to get past Blitz, and he will. That's devastating because Simple now finds Bartak Techno low, and Simple, of course, he hits the shot. Na'Vi, a successful retake, considering they were down the deficit in the HP.
That's fantastic. What a shot from Bit as well on the entry, but Simple gets the double up there, not missing a trick. That last kill, it looked very dangerous for him. That angle that was being held felt like he was never going to hit the shot with the AWP. But of course, it's Simple, makes it work. Na'Vi pull off a very difficult retake and prevent Mongols from getting consecutive rounds. It's still very costly. Only one player surviving keeps that money incredibly honest. So again, they have the worst buy going into this round.
Yeah, take a look at it. 3 SMGs. At least they have got the utility behind them. Yeah, Mongols in that afterplant situation there, it wasn't really a true crossfire. It was these little jack-in-the-box moments to try and pop up and surprise Na'Vi. Nearly works out. Grouping over towards B apartments this time, but Simple. He's here alongside MPL, looking to hold the line. Blitz potentially might be called into action later on, as Simple does find one. Swinging for even more, but fully blind. Actually falls away. Simple with the no-scope. No access. No entry allowed in towards B.
Simple has come to Brazil, putting on his best Cold Zero impression. Not quite jumping, but it'll still do. Blitz does get one back, and that is going to spread out this attack. They think it's going to be A. They're already rotating. Simple is on his way out, and that's given the window for Annihilation to walk on through. Bomb on his back. He can plant that one, and look at Blitz's position. He can cut off the rotations. Electronic and Perfecto, the penny drops. All the heroics are Simple now forgotten about. They have to pull off this 2v2. Blitz, oh my god. That HE almost deals with him, but now he's going to come on through. Both players back turns. He's in the perfect position to end it all. Slings on through. They line up for the first. Perfecto now has to come on back and for good kill, but leaves him with 3 HP in the 1 versus 1. Annihilation spots him on the fade back, and Perfecto, he decides he just wants to hold on to the AWP.
What a really nice mid-round coming in from the Mongols. The fact that Annihilation gets that much room, and Na'Vi, it feels like the communications are a little bit cluttered. You've got Simple dealing with the initial threat. That's 3 kills for him on the way in with the AWP, and yet still the Mongols, it's the presence over towards ramp. It drives so much rotation away, and it means that Simple just has to fall away because the information in mid just isn't there. And as a result, it gives Annihilation all of this space to walk out, catch Simple unawares on the bomb site. It's for the Mongols.
Yeah, a bit of an over-rotation as their demise, but Simple still gets to hold the AWP, and they're forced around it, knowing how close some of these rounds have been. Don't want to give them away back into this. Electronic spots a few on that jiggle. Bit tucked on under in a good position, but they jump on around, drawing his crosshair out into the open. He can't find purchase. The Perfecto has a good rotation through. No smoke at CT. Electronic just spams through and delivers a kill. Blitz is able to get one back, but MPL is now stepping up to the plate, and Simple denies the bomb blast. The Bartek has found 2 more, and it's all now onto Electronic. Low HP from that spam. A very difficult retake.
Yeah, position known as well. Look at the space that Bartek has acquired over towards CT spawn. And Electronic got the kill through on the spam. Now needs to go searching. First little side quest to deal with under Palace, but he can't get past Blitz. Only working with the Deagle. Na'Vi, it looked like they're in cruise control, but one flashbang over towards CT creates so much success for Bartek.
And this is the Mongols thriving in the atmosphere that they create, right? Causing chaos and just capitalizing on it. This is Asian Counter-Strike, baby, and it is beautiful. And now, off the back of all of these rounds, Mongols have never had a round that they've not invested into. They're going to be the ones that have reset Na'Vi. They should be in a great position to get their 4th.
I think what's really interesting so far in this first half is we've already spoken about the fact that Na'Vi, they are up for the fight initially, and then they kind of transition more into their fundamentals and their support network as the round develops. And for me, it's almost like they're playing down to the Mongols' level at times. Because it feels like the Mongols are saying, okay, well, look, let's just fight. Let's give it a go. And Na'Vi are like, okay, sure. We'll just kind of detract away from all the fundamentals we know. Surely there should be a timeout at some point, because despite it being 6-3, you start to think about the rounds that have been won by Na'Vi. There's a lot of clutch situations. It hasn't really come down to the wire. It has never really been all that convincing. So this scoreline isn't really a true representation of how this first half has really played out.
Well, the stack comes on over for Na'Vi as the hit comes through, so maybe a chance to do some damage here. There is that Desert Eagle in Simple's hands, but the AKs are doing work at the moment. A couple of kills come through. Simple does strike, and even USP gets involved. Flips over the top, though, finding a few kills, and it's going to prevent any further bleeding. They do lose 3, which is fairly costly against the Pistols, but they'll be happy with the round.
And that's the most important thing, just securing these rounds, because the Mongols have found themselves in man advantage situations, but have never really been able to close. Those rounds are so important, especially because it's literally a non-investment. It should always be the T-side rounds on paper. It is free casualties, it is expensive, but at the end of the day, they are able to lock it in. And now they're just 2 rounds away from potentially evening up the scoreline. A new response from Na'Vi, a new variation in towards middle. Electronic starts down towards underpass, and he had success when he pushed aggressively on his own before, but this time thinks better of it, and he just tucks his head out of connector.
Yeah, I think you've just got your guns back. It's a little bit of a lighter buy. There's no AWP, there's some FAMASs. I think you just play this one in one of your default setups. Wait to see what Mongols' decision-making is. It does look like they want to take mid-late, not uncommon on the T side. And I like this from Na'Vi. They've found a gap. Simple has actually pushed up in towards Palace, so he's got a lot of control here if they do decide to go back towards A. It's in a very powerful position. Gap is in towards mid, but it's a known one. Smoke's come on through, and they are going to be splitting up onto the B bomb side. Perfecto is here jiggling as player tucked into Van as well. Electronic falls actually over towards jungle, but MPL has found that kill from Van. Perfecto still sitting back here and finding purchase. 2 massive frags. Brought down low, but falls on back, and there's the flank from Blitz. Goes into the 2 versus 2 now. The bomb still has to be recovered, so Na'Vi have time to get into position.
Yeah, they're both rotating in from short as well, which is quite useful. Oh, but Bit just goes a little bit before Simple is ready. And as a result, a 1 versus 1 presents itself. And Mongols will take advantage of it. Bullet strikes. Starts from Market, now transitions in towards the apartment. Keeps Simple guessing and keeps the Mongols on the right foot. 6 rounds, plays 5.
Might be time to see that timeout from Na'Vi soon. Starting to lose a few key rounds here, and this is with the multi-kills coming through from the players you expect, right? There's 3 kills that go down on the side itself from Na'Vi, which is kind of all you can ask for from the double setup there. Issue is they kind of get caught out by the extra piece in mid, causing chaos. The spy is all deagles. A deco from Na'Vi. Techno's definitely spotted out the shoulder there and gets a chance to fire off some shots onto MPL. Mongols can just work this. They'll have a good idea based on these contacts, what's in play for Na'Vi, and they should know it's not a lot.
I think what's interesting in that last round is the fact that Simple takes the space in towards Palace, but they don't rotate off the back of having that information. There was one player that was holding middle, but I think it was Electronic in towards the A bomb site. He definitely could have rotated over to maybe try and help out B. You still rely on the individuals and they find a multi-kill, but the rotation kind of timeline is just really long-winded for Na'Vi. However, focusing back on this one, Blitz waiting for the connector smoke, has joined in support a lot by his teammates. Bit just on the other end of it, will strike, but the headshot doesn't quite present itself. That's an open bomb site. That's the way in.
Na'Vi had gone for the B stack, and unfortunately that's not the read here. With Bit not finding anything, their chances to cause too much damage in this round are mitigated. No reason not to try and find some kills here. Get yourself a free weapon if possible. Maybe even take a bit of time just to talk things over. Electronic does find one. Oh my god, Blitz, that's an incredible tap.
Speaking of him, Blitz has 17 kills this half. I just looked at it, I was like, wow, that's an awful lot to be finding. It's very top heavy, though, for the Mongols. That's what I will say, because next highest is Techno on 11. And then at the bottom end, you got Hazteca on 3, Annihilation on 5. To be fair to Annihilation, he's not yet pulled out the AWP. He's only had it for this round and the previous. So he's now wielding his weapon of choice. And for Na'Vi, here is that tactical timeout used. However, I think it's a little bit late because suddenly you were looking at a flawless scoreline and now it's a completely level playing field.
Yeah, I feel like there's just a point where you know that you're the favorites and you kind of have all your protocols down, so you don't feel the need to kind of take that time to, you know, talk through with coach and kind of discuss your strategy forward. You kind of know what you need to do, but it's obviously not quite working, and that's why this pause has come on through. They know that this is an important round if they want to win out this half, otherwise they will be looking at a pretty scary scoreline. Change up here as Factor drops down early. Smoke comes on through, and he's not spotting anyone towards top mid. He knows no one is crossed because of his position early. And a bit of spam through the smoke doesn't connect either way. Mongols are pretty heavily leaning over towards B at the moment, but they can split through mid.
It looks like Na'Vi are really focused on trying to prevent Mongols from coming up through the underpass. You've got 2 players currently staring at that. Flashbang's even being thrown in as well, and the reset comes in for the T side. They're going to back away from B, and they're going to head over towards A. There was initial contact being taken by Bartak over in Palace with Bit, but it was through the smoke. No bullets were really connecting and translating, so instead, they're just going to line up with smokes. They're just going to try and burst in. The unfortunate thing is they haven't actually pulled any rotations for Na'Vi. They are 4 players strong here on A.
Yeah, they're trying to feign the mid presence, but Na'Vi are not falling for this. They have everyone in position to deal with it. Simple drops the flames, Bit taking contact in towards Palace. Can't quite win up that fight, does a lot of damage though. So Bartak will be limping here. Simple misses the shot, but he's still going to be a presence. And Perfecto on the stairs. There's no smoke to block him off. In fact, all the smokes have been deployed. Perfecto gets one, and there's a good kill onto him in response. Electronic force one back, so again, Mongols get in with the man advantage.
They've also got Blitz out over towards middle, not yet revealed himself, so he can come in and kind of be the linchpin that holds this all together. Na'Vi all attacking from one direction. Annihilation spots the shoulder, gives information over to his team, can't see, but he still connects onto MPL, and now suddenly Blitz's activation and connector is a little bit wanting, but the Mongols were holding on temporarily, but now it's all Annihilation. Needs to hold on with the AWP, a shot through the smoke. Nearly connects, but it can't quite manage it. Electronic there. The safe pair of hands. Defuse locks in for Na'Vi.
Yeah, that's the experience of Na'Vi on display there. The way they approach that retake, they bait out the AWP shot, they drop the smoke, they take their time. Electronic picking his fights with perfection there. Every single one well orchestrated where he always had the advantage. I mean, that's just a beautiful shot. He doesn't find that one, it gets a little scary, but each of these fights is beautiful. Waiting for the AWP shot to swing. Catching the player in sandwich, off guard while he's trying to deal with MPL on site. Well handled from Electronic to get Na'Vi their 7.
Yeah, the Mongols are doing a really good job not only just finding these openers. Techno out middle. Electronic and Perfecto trying to deal with the underpass, but they should be focusing on the full frontal force of the Mongols. 2 kills quickly become 4. MPL has to save on the other side of the map.
Now that was explosive. Oh my god, Techno 4K, what a double in mid. That second was an insane spray to be able to connect at that range with the AK. Absolutely marvelous. MPL is going to be able to take him down, get himself an AK, but honestly, he might not even get the chance to save this. And in fact, it looks unlikely because Blitz is already here holding. Catches him as he jumps around the corner. That's his 19th frag. That's the game tied up again.
Yeah, this is really nice stuff. That's a change of pace that Na'Vi weren't expecting. As soon as the overwhelm comes in towards middle, Mongols have been really disciplined at slowing down the pace after they find the initial opener, waiting for Na'Vi to either make the next move or just over-rotate and kind of gamble stack towards a different bomb site. However, this time, they just press the accelerator, find even more impact, and suddenly MPL is just left all alone. Take a look at this buy coming into the last round of this first half for Na'Vi. Double SMG, double FAMAS.
A lot for the Mongols in this round. They have all the advantages against this fight. Simple spotted. Has to try and find his way out. A smoke deployed to allow that passage. Hastaker is just spamming on through to try and catch him, and Simple's actually not pushed back through. He's stuck around, and oh my god, Techno 4K, another sharp shot onto Simple. Doesn't get a chance to respond in that round. Already removed. That's the M4 out of the equation. And the superstar from Na'Vi is silenced into this final round.
Take a look though, double palace push, Bartak assumes responsibility of the first, but he gives Bit an AK to work with, but that's still information. The Mongols want to try and split in towards A here. Perfecto has to keep his eyes trained on both connector and window, because Mongols have shown so much in here in the past. Bit caught off guard at ramp. This is the way in that the Mongols needed.
They're just going for these angels, and they're winning every single one. It's phenomenal. Always an entry headshot to be had here for the Mongols. Hastaker caught between 2, doesn't seem to matter, finds the first. MPL tries to swing, but he's in a 1 versus 4, and it does not favor him. Flashbangs come on over, Blitz takes him down, and the Mongols at the half have an 8-7 lead.
Yeah, really impressive stuff coming in from the Mongols. The way they're able to get onto the A bomb site in particular looked so damaging. And Na'Vi, whilst the responses were there half the time, it just feels like they're getting off to a really sluggish start, as close as can be in this first half. But what can occur when the sides swap over?
Well, we talked about this game being potentially one of the most one-sided, but in fact, it has been a back-and-forth battle between these two teams, with the Mongols showing a lot on their T side.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the way that they were playing out the mid rounds. Some of the afterplants were a little bit shaky at times, but they're still able to acquire 8 rounds on their T side. It gives them more than enough of a solid foundation to work with. Flashbang, Na'Vi want to take pace in towards middle, targeting connector, layered peek from MPL and Bit, and Techno just gets out of dodge.
Yes, Smoke down, going to block off vision from shot. Techno tucked on in, does get the first kill as MPL swings. Simple with the immediate trade. Techno now trying to take some space on through, gets the kill on Hastika. That's now the area secured. Blitz is dinked on down low as well. He's going to be having a really difficult fight here against Electronic. Loses that one out. And this is looking good for Na'Vi. That bomb can come on through. Both these CTs focused on Bit. And Bit, well, he takes one on down. Bartek now in a 1v3. Has that kit that he can collect if he wants to, but chances in the round very difficult as Na'Vi assemble into their post plants.
Yeah, tries to get tricky with it, jumps out the window for a little bit of a fake drop, but Na'Vi players too far away to try and hear it. Smoke kit have been reclaimed, and I feel like that's going to have to be the escape plan now for Bartek. Just tries to hold on to the Kevlar, and the smoke in the kit time too far gone. And that was a really well choreographed round from Na'Vi. You saw everyone working in unison, the timing of the flashbangs, accommodate the swings of the peaks, and no stone was left unturned. You got Electronic elevated in towards ramp, holding for the push of Blitz that came in. Everything was dealt with and managed for Na'Vi.
Yeah, and I feel like this is where we're going to see the difference between these sort of two teams in terms of, I feel like, when you have these best of one games and you have these underdog teams coming in, like the T side is always going to be their strength, I feel. But when you have to swap sides and you have to defend against a Na'Vi that's